Hey everyone, Tech OG here, representing those who are 40 and up who love the tech. And if you're like me, you truly enjoy playing emulators on your Android phone. I have a smorgasbord of emulators and a nice array of games for every emulator. Now, the one emulator that truly intrigues me out of all of these is the Nintendo Switch emulator. And in this video, I'm going to tell you the 3 different ways that you can play Nintendo Switch games on your Android phone, the pros and cons of each way, and the one way that I would recommend for you to try. The first way to enjoy playing Nintendo Switch games on your Android phone is with the EggNS emulator. This emulator is pretty cool. And the only way to enjoy using this emulator is to get this controller right here, the GameSir X2 controller. Now, this controller is not compatible with every Android phone, but if it is compatible with yours, you are a lucky soul that can use the EggNS emulator to play Nintendo Switch games on your phone. The pros, of this emulator, they only have a couple. The first one, this has a pretty sizable game compatibility list. Now, you can probably go on the EggNS website and find out the list, and you could probably test some games out that you have on your own to see if they work with this emulator. But like I said, the list of games is pretty sizable, and the app gets updated occasionally, not frequently, but it does get updated to, at a pretty good speed. Oh, snap, a goblin. Come here. At a pretty good speed where you can, or hopefully the updates will be able to play newer games that are released for the Nintendo Switch. The cons of this, I had to pause it real quick because I want to get that goblin. The cons of this is, one, you need to have this controller again, the GameSir X2 controller. And if your phone is not compatible, then you're out of luck. So you got to make sure that your phone has the OTG or on-the-go function in order to use this on your phone to use the EggNS emulator. Some other things that are bad about this, some games crash, so not all games work. Some games do crash, even when you're playing, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Not until, hopefully, there's an update where it fixes the crashing. One really big con that I don't like, your phone gets really, really hot. My Note 20 gets hot right here, right in this area right here. I can't stand it. It gets really, really hot. And because it gets hot, your battery drains considerably. Oh my goodness. I was playing Diablo 3 on here yesterday. I was at maybe 50%. It got down to 15% in 30 minutes. This gets really hot and drains the battery. It's getting hot right now. And drains the battery very, very fast. So those 2 things right there are a deal breaker. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's great to have this controller and to play Nintendo Switch whenever you want using this controller. And let me get to the actual interface. Let's see if we can get, or the actual home screen, I should say. See if I can get there real quick. Bam. So you can play a nice array of Nintendo Switch games, but like I said, with those cons that I mentioned, phone getting really hot, some games crashing, Kirby crashes, and I'll tell you that right now. Even at the latest, and I'm running EggNS 3.0.1, so that's a pretty new updated version. But Kirby crashes on this, and there'll be some other games that you may try out that may crash as well. So with the phone getting very, very hot and you having fast battery drainage, that right there is a deal breaker for me. Like I said, very good way to play Nintendo Switch games, but just not too practical because you can't play it for a long period of time without being plugged into an adapter or charger. Option number 2, the Skyline emulator. And with this emulator is pretty cool. It recently it's been out just for a little while. I'll say a month, a little bit, maybe a little over a month. Not absolutely sure of how long, but it's definitely a lot younger than the Egg and S emulator. So let me give you some pros and cons of this emulator. As you can see, I am trying out Sonic Mania on here. And as you see, I've already tried it out. And with this emulator, because it's in its early stages, as far as the pros, the one thing that I really like about this, as you can see, I am not using the Gamester X2 controller. This emulator works with any, let me say that again, any controller you have. Whether it's, what is this, with the Razer Kishi, if you have a Bluetooth controller, if you have an old Bluetooth controller, if you use a wire controller, any controller you can use with this emulator. So that right there is a huge plus. Let's see what else. This gets updated very frequently. Very frequently. So anytime someone's testing this out and finds out something or tweaks something, they'll release an update for it. So this is like open to the community. So this is kind of awesome that almost anyone can make an update to this. Wow, this emulator. And that's pretty much it as far as the pros. As far as the cons, you can see one con right now. Because it's in its early stages, it runs very slow. Now this game right here, albeit being a very small game, it's not a very large as far as a graphically intense game. It runs slow. So if this is running slow with Sonic Mania, this runs pretty much fast on any PC. Imagine running Diablo 3 on here. It's probably going to be a snail pace. So it runs very slow. Most games do not have sound yet. So if you're making a video of this, you don't have to worry about getting dinged from Nintendo because it's not going to have sound to begin with. So run slow, no sound. Oh, missed the box. No pause button. No sound, and yeah, that's it. Yeah, because it's in its early stages, you're not going to have a nice array of games to play. But because this gets updated frequently, hopefully that's going to change in the very near future, where it's going to be on par with the Egg and S emulator. It's going to take some time though, so you got to be patient with the people that are testing this out, that are tweaking it, and definitely thank the people that made this. Definitely donate to them, as I've done. Oh, one more thing about the Skyline emulator. You have to build the app yourself. You can go onto the GitHub website, and they have the builds for the emulator. You have to build it yourself. I've never built an app before, so I did download an app from the Google Play Store that will build it for you. I happened to find this particular APK on the internet. It took me some time to find it, but it was already built, and so this is probably a really early release of the Skyline emulator. I didn't try any of the newest builds. So, you know, when you try the newest builds, this will probably run a lot faster and may have sound. Who knows? But like I said, you have to build the app yourself. So if you're familiar with that, then you're good to go. And the last way to play Nintendo Switch games on your phone is using Parsec. Now, Parsec is an application that allows you to remote play games from your PC on your phone. So this is my PC that I have the Parsec app installed on there, and Parsec installed on my phone, which allows me again to control or remotely control and use my PC on my phone. How cool is this? Because again, phone, PC. That is so cool. I love Parsec. Parsec is awesome. Now, one of the best things about using your PC on your phone and using a Nintendo Switch emulator, because with the PC, you're using PC emulators and not Android emulators. So you're using the actual Yuzu emulator or the actual Ryujinx emulator, which are both for PC. And pretty much, if it runs on your PC, it's going to run on your phone. So if your PC is decked out and you have the latest graphics card and everything, it's gonna run like butter. So you can't go wrong using Parsec on your phone. And because this is not egg and nest, your phone will not run hot. You will not run through your battery power. Plus, you can charge your phone and it will actually charge while you're using the application. So your battery will charge will go up. It will not stay stagnant like it does on Egg and S, because Egg and S and this controller draws a tremendous amount of power from your phone. It's amazing how much it does. But this right here, extra application that's made for your phone, so it runs like butter, and it doesn't get your phone hot at all. Man, this is so awesome, totally awesome. And because it's using your PC and using Yuzu or Ryujinx, the game compatibility list is pretty high. It has a very large compatibility list. So any newer games that come out, there's going to be updates for this, and the updates run as frequent as they do for Skyline. So, for example, the Kirby game that was just released not too long ago, that does run on Yuzu and Ryujinx. So, any new games that come out, just wait a couple of days. It's going to run on the emulator. And look how buttery smooth this is. This, you can't go wrong with this. So happy. The only thing that's a drawback for using Parsec, because you are remote controlling your PC, you have to have your PC on at all times in order to use this. So if you don't have a PC that's on all the time, and you have to have a monitor on at all times, if you don't have a monitor on, Parsec will not work. So you gotta have a computer with a monitor running at all times. So your best bet is to get a laptop clamshell, because you can run Windows. It can still run while you closing the lid by doing some tweaks in the battery settings or the power options. When I say power options right here, by right clicking on the battery icon, you get the power options, and just holding camera, you can, let's see, choose what closing the lid does. So for me, when I close the lid, nothing on battery and plugged in. So by it doing nothing, it will not shut down, it will not hibernate. It's running real time all the time. So, in other words, my PC does not run hot. I mean, I can hear the fan, so it is running. It has to run, so it has to stay cool, but it's not going to be or get as hot as the lid being open. So it will last for a long time. So I don't mind having or using this laptop here at home and keeping it on all the time. And you may say to yourself, oh, what if it shuts down, or what if it conks out and doesn't work after a period of time? Because, hey, laptops do that, especially if you keep them running. Well, that's okay. I have another computer that I can use in place of this, just in case this ever breaks down. So I got another one, and I can find another one too, and get one pretty cheap. And I have this one connected to my Lenovo Thunderbolt dock, and this has a GPU in there, so it runs pretty well, runs games pretty well. I could probably find a cheap laptop with a 3000 RTX 3000 series graphics card in there whenever this conks out and my other one breaks down. So I can always find that years to come and use that as my PC that runs all the time to be able to play my Nintendo Switch games anytime I want, anywhere I want. So out of all three, which one do I think is the best one to use? It all depends. But for me, it's this method, using Parsec. Oh, I forgot to mention one thing that is a huge drawback as well. No matter what controller you use, the Z or your L and R trigger buttons do not respond on here. No matter what you do or how you try to configure it, take it apart, reset the computer, they do not respond. I've used this controller, they do not respond at all. Now there is a workaround for this, because you don't use your left analog stick button and right analog stick button that much, I've paired these, or I configured these buttons to shoulder buttons, as you can see here. So I'm using these two as my shoulder buttons, and I'm using this, the actual L and actual R trigger, as a ZL and ZR, which are not configured to these, but I configured it to these so that I can have usage of all 4 shoulder buttons instead of just 2. Because again, just these 2 shoulder buttons work. These 2 don't. So I got these buttons here to these basically. And by me having that and using that, check it out. Zoom, zoom, zoom. I turn it to the flash. And I decimate my enemies with my armor set. What? Get out of here. And notice that my, what do you call that? What do you call that? Hold on. I can't remember the word. Ah, that's the word. Fury. Notice my Fury's not going down because I looked up this build on the internet, because there's some much better players than I am. And man, this particular armor set that I have, outstanding. Outstanding. Took me a while to get all this too. But man, this right here, this setup right here, the most awesome setup. And again, whatever games work on your PC will work on here because you're remotely controlling your PC on your phone. That is the hot business. I love it. And look, my battery was at 49%, now it's at 52%, and still running the emulator or the app, Parsec app. Can't go wrong with this. Second place will go to the XNS emulator, and of course third place, because it's still in its infancy stage, the Skyline emulator. So pick the one that you can use for yourself. I mean, again, if you have a PC that you can keep on all the time and not worry about it, then I would suggest the Parsec way. If you do have this controller right here and you have a pretty good phone that has a pretty good battery charge that doesn't deplete as much as this one does, my Note 20 Ultra, then this one would be your first way to go. Skyline, you just have to wait for that. That's going to take a while. But anyway, those are the ways that you can play Nintendo Switch games on your phone. Pick the one that you want that is going to work for you. And if you enjoyed this video and the information, definitely leave that thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Tell your friends about my channel, and I hope to see you in my next video.